Before the break, I covered simplest branch of this program, and I explained why it is simplest, because it doesn't have any data delay, but also it contains other things that, like navigation, that is just a copy-paste to other branches. So these differences are relatively small. This is why I will explain other branches probably quicker, because I don't need to explain things already explained. So next branch is call it observables. I create a branch called observables. Let's check out that branch and I'll stop it and run the program. This branch also doesn't require a separate server, but it is indeed picking data from a server. It is picking data from the server where Angular program is running, from the same server. How did I imitate it? In assets, I created data folder and I created file called catalog.json. So when my program sends request to get data, it is sending a request to the address of the file. So the HTTP server serving Angular will serve content of this file. Since the HTTP protocol is compatible to RESTful protocol for the GET messages, when GET message comes to the address of the file, HTTP server will serve content of the file. So it is indeed it will behave like a data server, except there is no access by ID. It is all or nothing. So just because it is all or nothing, I need to resolve some logic by get data by ID inside of the program. So it's extra challenging, and it's also a demo how to deal with it. So let's see. How did I do it? I created a data folder. I created catalog.json file. Name is not important. I copy-pasted part of the data that comes from the server. Again, if it's not formatted nicely, you copy-paste it as it is, and you can format it afterwards, like code reformat file. Where it is? Code reformat file. So I will provide you server for your assignment, and data will not come nicely formatted. It will be just probably one nasty line. So you copy-paste it and you format it here so you can make sense of it. Another option is to use Postman. It is formatted there, but even you copy-paste, probably it won't be formatted. I don't know. I never copy-pasted from this. But anyway, when you copy-paste it into local file, like next step, you can just copy-paste and format it. So this data will be indeed delayed because the way how I wrote the program, it will send request to the address of the file and server will serve content of it. So now my FlowerData service has a variable HTTP client. So this object is used to send requests and receive responses. When you do your assignment, it is super important, I'm emphasizing super important, open app module and add HTTP modules there. Because if you don't, it will not be injected into service and it will not work. Because it's not injected, it will crash, we cannot inject, and a result will be empty screen. Usually programs do not die silently. Even if it is empty screen, you open console, you get some clue out of it. So when you open console of a browser, you will see cannot inject the HTTP client, and it will be a clue that something wrong with the injection. So what is wrong? This is missing. So again, you need to add it to app module if it is generated with no standalone components. When it is with standalone components, it's a different story. Its structure is different. Okay. So stick for assignments 4, stick to the same structure. So here it is. I put it here. Now I'm going to FlowerData service, and now I can inject it. I use keyword private, so it will create this.http variable. Why? Because I need to send requests several times when I go to roses, send requests to get roses. Again, you will see. It is indeed, I'm sending requests several times. Not the most efficient way, but this is how it is done here. It's still mutation, right? Because it's coming from a file. I have address of images. It's still on the same server. It is here. I have address of data. In this, you see it is address of the file. I still have conversion function, and I have get all flowers returning observable of flower array. What is observable? It's a container where we can set observer. Observer, it's an object with some functions, or just one lambda function, simplest case scenario, that will be called when something happens with the data, like new data comes or error happens. If it is observer object, it will have a lambda function, call it when data is updated, and lambda function, call it when error happens. If it is just lambda function, just one lambda function, it will be called when new data comes. So here it is. This function will return immediately. It will not. It means it will not freeze code while waiting for result, for response. But it will return immediately. But it will return empty container. So you cannot observe data when you cannot say try to retrieve data right away and display it. It will not work. So we will need to set observer on this container. So we send request, HTTP get, and this is expected data. Remember that I defined catalog JSON before, so I'm referring to this data structure. Because content of flower JSON, it's exactly catalog JSON, this one. So I expect this object to come, right? So this is receiving data. It is for data matching from this address. But return value is not observable containing catalog JSON. I need to do data transformation. So I'm using pipe to apply data transformations. Pipe, it's a function with multiple parameters, potentially separated by comma. This will be applied to the content of the observable when data comes in the sequence, if it is more than one parameter. In this case, it is only one parameter, so it will come as one object with array of flowers in it, but it will be array of flower JSON object. So I apply map, the same as before, to a map is a method of the array that takes lambda function to generate elements of another array. Return it by map. Right? These lambda functions will be applied to every element of the first array to create returned array. So what will it do? It will apply flower JSON to flower function to every element of array to create another array. So this is data transformation of one observable into another observable, right? No, it's data transformation inside of the observable to create new observable data. So next, get flower by ID. Now I have to do like jumping through hoops straight because I don't have a server side serving data by ID. Potentially, I could do just the same as above using index. Data transformation. First, call this. I will have observable with array. Do data transformation on array to pick one number out of it. It will work. It's a demo of using switch map. This is why it is using switch map. I could just pick element of this array. Not index, but I cannot use index because I have to use find, right? Because it is array So I'm looking by ID, not by index. So we have to find, sorry, not index. I could do similar thing, and it will work, but this example is a demonstration of switch map. Switch map is more flexible. It creates from one observable independent observable, but that observable is still linked, so it's different container essentially. Map contain map is using content of one observable to produce another observable. Of will generate that observable, second observable. There is also variation, switch map and merge map. I think it's merge map. We need to look up. Okay. So switch map can produce only one, and if you try to produce second one, first will disconnect. And this is what I want. I don't need more than one flower at a time. So it's either list, and list is returned at the top, this, or just one. I think it's merge map. If it is not the case, I need rows and daffodil at the same time, just details on rows and details on daffodil. This will disconnect the first, so first will never load when asked of second. So in this case, I will have to use the other one. Okay, but in my opinion, it is just, I picked this from textbook. In my opinion, it is just a demo for switch map. We can use call find directly, so it will be fine. And it will replace the content by data transformation. Anyway, when we pick data by ID from the server, we don't have to use this kind of trick anyway. So it's a demo. So how it is applied? Let's look up inside of index, since it's more straightforward. So in flower index component, not flower index, flower index component, I'm injecting flower data service, but when I call get all flowers, it will give me observable flowers of array. So type is different, right? So I need to display it different way because type is different. So in my control, a component HTML, somehow I need to do data conversion. Luckily, if I just need to convert observable to content of it, it is async pipe. It is setting observer automatically, removing observer when we go away from this page. So it's a nice shortcut. But if we do it this way, we cannot really display messages, but maybe it's okay. So how it will behave if data is not here? It won't be displayed. This is how it will behave. It will stay not assigned, so it will be empty container. Empty container will not show anything. So this is, and the rest of the template is the same, you see? So only this part is different. Okay. So what would happen if we go to details? In details, I decided just, okay, let's use different approach. I still display flower. And I'm using subscription like in our dice roll example. So I subscribe it for, I pick it ID from the address line as before, and I subscribe it for the data to come, right? So when data comes, I assign the flower. What if data doesn't come? Because if it is, if error happens, this will stay undefined, right? So I still have to have if in my template. So in my template, I have if. When I unsubscribe, I decided to unsubscribe inside of on destroy. ng on destroy is called when we navigate away from the component when the component is destroyed. Could I unsubscribe inside of this Lambda function? Yes, I could. Because after I assign flower, I don't expect another flower. I could unsubscribe immediately. Why did I do it this way? To show that some textbook is doing it this way. And also to introduce life cycle of the component. That components go through life cycle, calling constructor, calling ng-init, and eventually when it is destroyed, it's called on-g. It's called on-ng destroy. So again, it's just showing different ways of doing exactly the same thing. So I could unsubscribe inside of this Lambda function, it's fine. Okay. Questions? So how to deal with errors if it happens? This will not display error, obviously. Error will show up in console. So I have a branch. No, this will not show errors because I cannot really stop server, right? Because it's either serving data or not serving Angular at all, right? So next branch is not about error messages. Next branch is using server, right? So we need to run server in order to run branch using server. So I stop this program and I'm switching branch to using server checkout. Okay. This expects server. So if we go to FlowerData service, we will see that data is coming from localhost 8080 API flowers. It no longer it's a file in the sets. And images folder, it's empty, nothing is there. Okay. Also, images are coming from that server. You see, localhost 8080 images flowers. Okay. So what if we run it? What happens? When we run it, and we go to localhost 4200, it doesn't show anything. Async receives observable, observable is empty, it's set observer, nothing happens, nothing comes. Actually, error comes, and it doesn't display error. If we open console, we will see that error, probably. So let's open more tools, developer tools, console. You see there is connection, refuse it because it's not a running connection refused. So observable is still empty, so it's not showing anything. If we go to specific address like flowers /rows, it shows data is not found message. It is technically a wrong message because it's error supposed to be error, could not retrieve data, data not found. But it's still okay because data didn't come, right? So let's see logic of this program. This server is serving data slightly more than just catalog JSON. It is serving object that contains field embedded, and embedded is catalog JSON. So in order to describe data that is received, I created another interface, data JSON, which is embedded catalog JSON. Okay. So when I ask for data here, you see, get all flowers. Get will return observables and data JSON inside of it. So in order to pick array of flowers, it is data dot underscore embedded dot flowers, and after this I apply map. Okay. To convert this array of flower JSON objects to array of flowers objects. So just extra step of conversion. Okay. And get by ID is a lot simpler because now we have a data for specific ID. So we have a address /ID. I'm using template to generate, to join strings. So it is address of the data, original data, address / ID. In data transformation, I'm picking flower JSON object and creating flower object out of it. Okay. Now let's see what we have in templates. I think templates are untouched, so let's see. In flower index components, yes, I still inject FlowerData service and it's getting observable, so it is the same. How it is displayed, the same. I have transformation. I use async pipe to do it. What about details? Flower details. I display flowers and I use subscription logic, so it is the same. What about in template? I still use if, else. See, if and else. Else not found. So in the template, the displaying logic is the same. What if I want to display some fancy messages like loading, arrow? So if I want to do so, I need to subscribe with observer object, which is not just one lambda function. It will be two lambda functions marked with next and arrow, right? Next will be called when next data comes, or first, and arrow will be called when arrow happens. So I created a branch, call it loading message. Okay, so check out that one. Stop and run it. So this branch is smarter because it will distinguish loading from arrow, right? When we're still waiting for data and when arrow happens, we don't need to continue waiting. So I use a logic similar to messages in our dice roller. So I created enumeration type for the flag variable that is showing our state of the loading. It is either loading, a success, or error. There is no initial state like in dice roller because, yeah, it starts loading right away. This is why there is no initial state. So we have loading, success, or error. And now I have this flag variable inside of details. Index is still the same. I didn't deal with index this way. Flower details. So I created this flag variable, loading state, and initial state is loading. When data comes, it will call next, right? This lambda function. And flower is assigned and state is changing to success, right? Logically. When arrow happens, state is changing to arrow. So I have two messages displaying on what happens, either loading or success, right? So inside of my details HTML, I use switch to display two different messages. If switch case of this variable loading state is loading, it will display loading the fake data. No, loading the data fake delay. I will show where this fake delay is coming from. It is inserted just for sake of showing this message. It will artificially delay data for 1 second. And if error happens, if loading state becomes error, it displays the data is not found. So now still, just because server is not running, right? So let's stop and run this program and see behavior of it when we go to this. Okay. So it still shows no data and no error message when we go to Flower Catalog, because I decided not to do it this way. It's still a sync pipe. If we go to flowers, rows, now it is smarter because, no, it's not smart, it's the same. I still do not show why it is data not found. It is showing here, error, data, it's not, it is indeed the same, it's correct. Data not found. And next, what if the server is running? So let's open server. Server is posted here. This one, please clone it. It is just Spring Boot project serving data. I already explained this before. It is the same project. Please clone it and run it. It is this one. It's called FlowerData service. We cloned it before, so I assume that it's already on your hard drive. So I will open it from my hard drive. Open. Projects, Spring Boot, FlowerData service, open, new window. What's your server running? Why it says it's running? Yes, fine. Cancel. I made mistake. I probably click on the same window. File open. Projects, Spring Boot, FlowerData service, open, new window. Oh, here it is, fine. And run. So this project is showing some picture. Control. Showing some picture. It's localhost 8080 because it has index HTML loading on JavaScript, grabbing data from the server. But data is at /API, /API flowers, API/flowers. Here's the data. So now we have the data, so it will pick, this Angular project will pick the data. So if we go to rows, it's supposed to pick it. We saw loading fake delay, 1 second. Now if I go to Flower Catalog, it's picking the data. As this is previous error, it doesn't clean up. It doesn't clean up console. You see loading fake delay. Where I got this fake delay? Just for sake of displaying this message, I inserted in fake delay. I inserted this into pipe. So FlowerData service now, before data is converted using map, I inserted 1 second delay. It is in milliseconds, so 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. If you remove this one, it will not have fake delay in it. Questions? So I think I explained all branches. Our main branch, it is very close to simplest, so it is no point of looking at this moment. So idea is to have assignment 4 similar to this program, but totally different data, so it's not copy-pastable in any sense. With more pages, but those pages will be by applying similar logic. It's not